Welcome to the Politics of Everything. I'm Amber Daines, your host and podcast producer. This is a half hour of power, a podcast dropping every week where I unpack the politics of everything, from money to motherhood, nutrition to narcissism, startups to secularism, the environment, quality, and much, much more. Our guests are seasoned in the field or topic of their choice, even if you've not heard of them yet. This is a non-partisan show. So while I love exploring varied views and get a buzz from a healthy debate of ideas, this is not a purely blue, white, green program. Please subscribe, tune in and enjoy the politics of everything. Failure is part of life. It can hit harder, maybe more publicly perhaps, when it comes to your business as well. Here with me is Jim Cox, who's a respected Australian business coach with a passion for helping entrepreneurs grow and scale faster. Following a quarter-life crisis, he discovered his love for coaching and became an ICF-accredited coach and trainer. He's worked with thousands of entrepreneurs to help them build freedom-based businesses and offers a tailored coaching pathway to help coaches and other experts grow their businesses online. As an entrepreneur, he's also experienced challenges and burnout. After hitting rock bottom in his 20s, Jim dropped out of the rat race to find a better path, one with more freedom, wealth, and fulfillment. And he has a book called Build, Excite, Ignite. Love that title, where Jim unpacks his knowledge to provide a practical and personalised coaching guide for those looking to break free from 9-to-5 jobs and create six-figure businesses. And I warmly welcome him to the Politics of Everything.
Thank you for having me, Amber. Good to have you.
Podcasting remotely can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. Since day one of the Politics of Everything, I have relied on Zencastr's all-in-one solution to make the process quick and painless, the way it should be for those of us who just love great content and want to get our ideas out into the world. If you know me, I'm obsessed with quality in terms of my guests, my sound, and everything about my show has to be great the first time. I'm time poor. It's so easy to use Zencastr. I'm not tech savvy and you don't need to be either. There's nothing to download. Just click on the link and off we go. Zencastr is all about making your podcasting experience easy, and with everything from local recording to automated post-productions now in their toolkit, you don't have to leave your browser to get that episode done, and done fast. I have a special offer for you, and hopefully you can experience what I have with Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my VIP code, the Politics of Everything, all lowercase and one word, to get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. How good is that? I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Okay, young Jim, what did you want to be when you were maybe in your teens and so forth? And did that kind of eventuate? Because obviously you ended up in the rat race in your 20s.
So I was incredibly antisocial as a kid. I was the typical primary school geek, and my mother decided to push me into ballet classes to help my social skills when I was about 6. So the dream from very young on was to actually become a performer, and I was very lucky that I was able to live that life. Traveled the world, worked for Disney, was an official Disney prince, so did a whole bunch of
my
fun
goodness,
stuff.
this is like a dream.
I know, right? I was actually literally living in Disneyland for about 3 years in Tokyo and absolutely loved it. But I think what hit me was the transient lifestyle and, wanting to put down roots and that good old Australian dream of buying your own house and renovating it and doing all that fun stuff. So that's what led me to the corporate world.
Amazing. So we talk about this term of 9 to 5, which sort of feels a bit dead anyway, particularly after COVID, where the normalisation of flexible and hybrid work arrangements has sort of permeated many sectors. There's a little bit of a swing back, obviously, in some corporates, but generally speaking, I don't know many people that do that 9 to 5 and that traditional, basically clocking in, sitting at your desk, looking at the clock at 5, and then you can't leave until 5. Do you think from your observations and the people you work with, this will remain the case in the years ahead? Or is it something that us entrepreneurs can really embrace longer term? Because let's face it, the reason we become entrepreneurs is largely for flexibility and freedom as well as all the other benefits.
Correct. And I kind of wish that COVID had happened a couple of years earlier, because then I probably wouldn't have gone through the torment that I went through in my corporate career. But no, look, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that it's been fantastic to see many corporates, especially those that are stuck in that sort of old school mentality of, people don't work if they're not sitting at their desk 9 to 5. It's been great to open up the doors to people to have that sort of freedom-based lifestyle. Having said that, I think that there are definitely industries that will slowly creep back into that, especially with that millennial sort of mentality. I think that people are finding, people can be more productive in an office, which I think is why, for people like us, Amber, getting out and doing your own thing is probably one of the best things that you can do, become your own boss.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because the swing back has been sort of, I think, took people by surprise. And I see lots and lots of social media memes kind of playing that up. They talk about in 2019 where like everyone was 5 days a week perhaps, and flex work was only for a selected few by, stealth negotiation with HR. And then 2020 came and it was like, oh my God, I'm missing the office. I don't have my work from home set up. And then 2021, it was like, oh, this is great. I'm all set up. I'm never going back. And then suddenly it's like, it's either mandates or perhaps you've changed jobs and that's just not an option because you're new and it's hard to find your feet, I think, in a big organisation, onboarding and things like that.
It's been really interesting, though, to hear, and I don't know from where, so please, whoever's listening, don't quote me, but there was a study that was done recently where they surveyed a whole bunch of millennials around work-life balance, and something like 80% said that they would prefer to take a pay cut than not have that freedom-based lifestyle. So they prefer to work in a job at a much lower rate than actually have that flexibility, than not have that flexibility.
And my only disclaimer to that, because I'm a bit older than that, I'm Gen X, is like I finished uni during a recession, is wait till a big recession comes and then you're begging for a job and then you can't call the shots, you know what I mean? So it's just an interesting,
and it's only just around the corner from what,
yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think also those terms, things like hustle culture to me has become old news. Like I find that notion of being always on as an entrepreneur not appealing at all. Obviously, burnout's something you've dealt with, heaps of us have dealt with in different phases of our lives and stages of our careers. It's obviously something that a lot of us reject now in that path to success. Can you just explain your own experience? And I guess without necessarily delving into all the personal side of things, when you did experience burnout, how you kind of got yourself together and recalibrated, if you like?
Yeah, look, it was that moment. I actually watched a Mel Robbins YouTube video about the 5-second rule. So counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just getting up and getting things done. And that literally flipped me from burnout, being in bed for 6 months, to starting up a business in my parents' granny flat, which was, kind of a nice little pauper story. But, I think, look, I think getting started with business can take a bit of hustle, but it's definitely not as prevalent as it used to be. I'm sort of working 3, maybe 4 days a week, running a 7-figure business myself, and I've got an amazing team and make sure they have a flexible work-life balance as well. So I think if you're utilizing, technology and you're planning ahead and you've got the right strategy in place, that freedom-based lifestyle is definitely, definitely easier to reach.
Yeah, and it feels like it's more aspirational now as well. Like it's that you don't have to be, the work to live thing or live to work, mantra. It's sort of really flipped. And I think most people would appreciate that. It used to be seen, and I've sort of grown up in an era where, it was very corporate culture, and I worked as a journalist and that's a 24/7 job. But, you didn't leave until the boss left physically from the news desk, even if you had nothing to do. Like those days seem to be over, thank goodness. But then it's just that, okay, well, how do we actually have some discipline as well around our work? Because I must admit, I don't always work from home. I've got a remote team, but we come together, and I do appreciate that as well. I think,
Definitely.
It's not great to be in isolation all the time.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you operate. Like I'm very similar to yourself, and I need that social interaction from time to time, which is why, I'm talking to you from a college that I have a desk at, because that's my sort of little touch point with a team, and it definitely motivates me. The interesting thing, though, I will admit, I find I get less work done.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm spending more time being social and catching up with everybody because I haven't seen them for 2 weeks. Whereas when I'm at home, I'm on at 8, I finish by 3, but I get a ton of work done. So it's
absolutely.
It's
stealth mode.
Exactly.
How do you think people can bounce back from, say, a business failure? Because obviously the topic today is business failures. It is quite different to personal failures in a way. I mean, obviously they can blend over, and sometimes you have, a whole bunch of things happen in your life, which, the business failure is part of that, because you might be in a partnership with someone romantically and that's a shared business and that goes under and so forth when the relationship fails. But I suppose for people, we love those stories of the hero story, people like Steve Jobs and so forth that, they have come back from failure and then they build bigger and
Yeah.
better. That's not everyone's story. And I think not everyone's made like that. So what's your view?
Look, I think that failure, and this is the coach in me, failure is just pointing you in a different direction. And I think it's really, really about how you see failure. Especially that situation you mentioned, like if it's a partnership with a family member or a husband or wife or something along those lines. It's hey, is this telling you that it's time for a new chapter and you need to pick up and transition the business or start all over again? I mean, I really don't believe in the overnight success. I think we all develop and grow in the same way. I think there's just people that are more consistent and persistent and see failure as a way to grow. I actually embrace failure because if I hadn't, screwed up the thousands of times that I had, then I wouldn't be where I am now. So yeah, I really see it as a learning. I think that's the best way to bounce back from it.
Absolutely. And it's good if you can actually feel that way, because I think at the time it probably doesn't feel like it's a
Oh,
lesson
it
you want to
feels
learn.
disgusting. Yeah, it never feels good. And trust me, as someone with ADHD that wants to be the best of the best, and always the perfectionist in me comes out constantly. It really hits you. Like I definitely agree with that. But I think it's about embracing that emotion just as another human emotion. Feeling the feels and then going, right, dust myself off. What do I do next?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
these mindset techniques that perhaps you're more familiar with than a lot of other people, this idea of a winner's mentality, is that
Mm.
something that you think has kind of come together over time, or have you seen it in other people at different stages of their life? So, different generations might have different ways of kind of framing that terminology, but also I feel like
Mm.
some people have in their DNA just that, not win at all costs, but that kind of, I'm not going to let anything stop me. And other people probably find it more of a bit of work to do to get to that mindset. What's your thought on how, I guess, as a coach, you kind of assess someone and then work out where they're starting from and how best to kind of coach them through that phase so they can be a winner?
Yeah, look, I think there's so many fantastic layers to this, and being a coach for such for almost 6 years now, it's really interesting to explore the intricacies that hold people back from that mindset. I think part of it is definitely upbringing. Seeing what happened with your parents and family members and how they embraced that winner's mentality. It can definitely be taught, but I think it's about breaking those patterns. If there are things holding you back from getting to where you want to be, there are tools out there. There are mindset shifts and things that you can do. It's really about being willing to create change. And I think that's probably generationally the things that I do see quite different is how people embrace that shift.
Yeah, just give us some examples. We don't want it to be too sort of prescribed or cliche about it. What would you
Yep.
give us, just a sort of an example to bring that to life, really?
Oh, look, I think that I've worked with clients that have come from families that have worked full time. Their parents have been in jobs for 40 years, and they can't break away from that. Like they see the rat race as, hey, this is my income, and no matter how much we work with them and how big that dream is of what they want to achieve, they can't break that pattern. Whereas on the opposite side, I've seen people that have gone, hey, look, I don't want that life, and they're able to shift that mentality with a bit of work. Obviously, breaking patterns can take a while, but with the right mindset, the right focus, I'd probably say the willingness to embrace fear is probably a big one. Like, that
Fear, that's
fear of
interesting.
yeah, like the fear of the unknown, to turn around and go, hey, look, you know what, this might not work out. And, my parents that have told me, hey, look, stay in the job, they might be true, and I might have to turn around and tell them that. But if I can turn around to them in 6 months' time and go, hey, look, I told you so, I'm a business success. The reward is worth that fear. So yeah, I think that's the thing, is it's just embracing the possibility of something not going the way you want it to.
And I imagine some people have that higher risk appetite and that desire
Yeah.
for change more than others, right? Like I know that even in my circle of business owners, some people, they don't mind just jumping off the cliff and not knowing how it's going to work out, or, the 80% and go rule kind of thing. is how they do
Amber,
their
you've just
businesses.
explained my relationship. So my partner and I are like yin and yang. I'm the one that wants to jump off the cliff at any given moment,
We
and
can't
he's
all do
the
it, I think.
no. Look, and I do appreciate it because we kind of, we balance each other out is probably the best way to explain it. But
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
quite funny because he's a change manager, which
Funny.
I
So he
think
deals
is
with
why.
change every day.
Correct, which I think is why he's so good at his job, right? Because he doesn't like change, but he appreciates the people that don't, and he knows how to manage and deal with them. So it's yeah, he's very good at his job for that reason.
I think about things that are in business, and this kind of, I guess, often on social media, particularly, we see that kind of poster of the success story and the hero story of how you got there, that they love what they do. I mean, I know people that are very successful and they turn amazing profits. They don't always
Yeah,
love what they're doing. They're just really good at it. They've got a great, profile or brand, and they can see that financial freedom they're going to have when they maybe exit the business or whatever it is kind
mm,
of their motivation. Do you think
yeah.
this passion thing is overblown? Like, do you have a view on that? That
Look,
purpose and
I don't.
passion. I think we're a bit obsessed with it. And I do wonder sometimes, like, I don't wake up every day going, this is exactly what I should be doing,
Oh,
but
look,
I've made
it's
a
kind of
commitment to
become a
do it.
buzzword. Yeah, it's become
Yeah.
a bit of a buzzword, right? Like passion, power, and purpose, like are the things that you
Yeah.
hear
The
all the
three
time.
Ps.
The three Ps. Look, I agree with you. I think success comes out in many different ways for people. Generating profit, especially, people can love their jobs and make a lot of money from it, and not enjoy their jobs and make a lot of money from it. What I will say is, I think that when you are passionate about what you do, and this is very connected to my story. I was in corporate making millions of dollars for boards and the companies that I was working for, but I hated it. But when I did start my company, and it was something that I absolutely loved, I was jumping out of bed every day. It didn't feel like work, and the money kind of just came. I think that
You are the
energy.
poster child then.
But I think, look, and don't get me wrong. Like, I obviously have my bad days, and there's
Yeah.
things that I don't want to do in my business.
What
But
would
I
they
think,
be? Let's lift the lid up a little bit and say,
oh,
well, what are some of those things that you like? Is it admin stuff? Is it repetitive stuff? What's the stuff that you maybe struggle with?
yeah, look, I'm a very big picture person. I like to be one of my team calls me the key problem solver. So I love that big picture detail and the strategy inside of things. But you're exactly right. I think it's the administration and the tasks. And
Mm.
I think one of the great things about where we're heading with AI and technology and everything that's coming out, is that a lot of that stuff can be mitigated and can be automated. But having said that, I mean, I've got team members that absolutely thrive on that side of things. And I think that's probably one of the keys when it comes to growing a successful business is surrounding yourself with the right people so that you can complement each other in that process.
And that's probably the hardest bit of having a business, in my experience, is the people side. Not because when
Yeah,
you have a great team and it's all humming, it's great, but things happen. People leave, they outgrow your business. They might start their own entities. Like, there's a lot of challenges, I think, in that
definitely.
business story because of the human factor. Even though that's the bit that makes a business great too. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? It's kind of a duality that exists.
I swore to myself that I would never have a team again when I left corporate. And I actually
Here
missed
you
I
are.
missed it. So I've got a team of 8 now. But I mean, look, you're totally right. And I think, to be honest, I think that's actually one of the things about hybrid work and
Yeah.
working remotely is you don't get to necessarily connect with your team as much. And, like I recently had a massive issue where I was working with a VA who was overseas and found out that she was, selling to clients and pretending that I was okay with it and it was a product that we had in the company.
Yes.
And
The
and that
horror
had
stories, really. It's the
the
reality of
real horror
business, though, isn't it?
stories. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that had gone on for a solid 12 months.
Oh my
Complete
goodness.
complete unbeknownst to me, until finally a client reached out and said, "Hey, look, I've hired this person and this is going on. They're not doing the work." And then everything just exploded. So having said that, again, like going back to the topic of failure, the trajectory that my business had once we were able to overcome that and put the right person in the role, like chalk and cheese. And so I think that, having a team and embracing people is part of the journey of business. And yes, there can be some horror stories, but there can be some massive success stories as well. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now without the amazing team that I've got. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right team
Yeah.
can really propel you forward.
Yeah.
Changing tack a little bit, what at the moment is your favorite business tool? And it can't be your phone. And how's it
Yes.
helping you in your business or life? Like some people, it could be, something they use out of work hours as well. But just that, that the tool, the tech piece, the app, whatever it is that you're really loving at the moment and why.
So I bought a year ago, I was in a conference in Japan and had a very dear friend who was in a mastermind, and he's invented this thing called the Go Box. And it is the most ingenious thing I have ever
Explain this
used.
for us in case we haven't ever seen one. I feel like I am 100 years old when you say that because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I almost feel like I'm Inspector Gadget or Get Smart, the old TV show. So it's literally a recording studio in a suitcase. So it's carry-on size. It has a camera, my Stream Deck. You can hook a laptop up to it, and you can literally just open it up, pop up the lights. Amazing microphone, and you can
I need one of
record.
these.
I know, right? And you can literally record from anywhere. So because we run retreats and things for our
Yes.
clients, I take it with me. I have been told going through security that it does look like a bomb in the X-ray machine.
Oh,
Um,
right. So
so
there's
just to be
some limits
expected,
there.
yeah. So just to be expected to be pulled over pretty much every time I take it through because of all the
Oh,
technology that's in it. But
yeah.
it's just ingenious what he's been able to squeeze into this tiny little suitcase. So
I
it's
love it.
makes it a lot easier to travel and do what we're doing all at the same time.
What's been your biggest life lesson to date and how has it really helped you or shaped you?
Look, I was very lucky that my dad instilled in me quite quickly that you can really achieve anything you want as long as you're willing to do the work, and that the energy that you put out will eventually come back. I think they're probably the two things that I really hold on to. And I see it time and time again, especially, working with startups and the people that I work with. There are and everyone knows the statistics, 1 in 3 businesses fail and all that sort of thing. But the people that I succeed time and time again are the ones that just dust themselves off, keep going, keep plugging away. Don't let the marketing failures or anything like that take hold. I think it's just about enjoying life and knowing that you can get to where you want to be.
And how do you define success for yourself?
For me, Amber, it's making an impact. It's not the money. I want to be comfortable, but I don't want to make, tens of millions of dollars. The corporate life for me, I hit a real roadblock where I was very close to not being on this planet anymore. And coaching was that window that helped me completely turn my life upside down. So for me, I've just found that, the more impact and the more connection I can make in the world to support other people to do the same thing, whether it's leave the rat race or, find a path that they really enjoy, as corny as that sounds. That's why I'm here.
And a final takeaway message for us on the politics of business failure.
Just to get out there and do it. We're talking about failure and business growth. I think, anyone that's sitting on the fence, it's time to jump off the cliff. Take this podcast as that line in the sand to go out and do what you love.
It's a sign. If you're listening to this show, it's a sign.
We are creating a sign for all of your listeners. Yes.
It's been a fabulous conversation, Jim. Thank you so much for being so candid and being my guest. If you do want to connect further, there will be details on our show notes. And until next time, do take care. Thanks so much for listening today. If you've enjoyed the politics of everything, I thrive on your feedback. So please add a short review and share the podcast with your network through Apple, Spotify, and all the usual suspects. I'm always on the hunt for new and diverse guests. So if you or someone you know has a fresh idea you're busting to get out there, please email me at amber@amberdanes.com and my crew will get back to you very soon.